Hi, everyone, and welcome to this webinar about scenario-based learning. We are a lot of people joining here today. So while we wait for people to join, why don't you write in the chat where you are located? It would be cool to see where you're sitting. I know there's a lot of different people all around the world, so it would be cool to see to hear more where you are sitting. Okay, I see. Chicago, Ohio, Egypt, nice. And let me see, Barcelona, just outside Chicago, Paris, cool. Wow, I know we have people from all around the world. Of course, we have the majority in the US, but I also seen that we have a couple from New Zealand, and we also have some from the UK, Sweden. Here we have one for UK. Great. I am located in Oslo, Norway, and I know Christy that you will meet soon. She is located in North Carolina. So this is really, really cool to see. Wow, the chat is really is alive. Cool. New York, South Carolina. Great. Okay, I think we should just get started. We have a lot to cover today. So I am so excited to kick off this webinar about scenario-based learning. And for the next 45 minutes, we will dig into the mind of Christy Tucker, where Christy will tell us everything we need to know about scenario-based learning. I am super excited, and I can't wait to hear more of what you should think of when you are creating scenario-based training yourself. I will also, at the end, have a demo where I will show you inside VR how easy it is for you to create scenario-based training yourself within minutes. So I am super excited for that as well. Before we start, I would also like to tell you that there will be a chat going on for this webinar. You have probably already seen it. So during this webinar, you can, of course, write in the chat if you have any questions. My colleague Glenn, which is like a proper product expert, he will answer them throughout the webinar. And also Christy will answer as we go along. So if there is anything, let us know in the chat. And if your questions are not being answered, we will, of course, follow you up later. And if we have time at the end, we'll see if we have time for some questions. Okay, great. My name is Stine, and I am a senior digital learning specialist, a learning designer, and a pedagogue here at We Are Learning. And together with me, I have the very own Christy Tucker. And since we're talking about scenario-based learning, there is no better person to talk about this than Christy Tucker herself. She has over 20 years of experience in the industry, and she's running her own business called Syniad Learning, where she's helping clients make scenario-based learning. And I read on her LinkedIn profile, it says that she wants to use technology and storytelling to make engaging learning. So I guess what's not to love? I think we should welcome Christy to the stage. Hi there, Christy.
Hi, Stine. Thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, great. Same. I can't wait for this conversation. So it's super exciting. But before we kick off this session, we would love to have a poll to get to know all of you a bit better. So my colleague here will launch a poll. And the question is, how much experience do you have with scenario-based learning? And okay, I see some movements here. A lot of you has some experience. It's like 60, 70, let me see, around 60% of you have some experience with scenario-based learning. So a great majority, but it's also a lot of you that says not much. So, and I totally get this. As a learning designer myself, you always strive to find those good examples, those good scenarios, but it's not always so easy. So yeah, I think most of you have replied, and the majority is like around 70% with some experience. Great. And as I mentioned, as a learning designer myself, I try to find those really good scenarios, but it's not always that straightforward to do. And scenario-based learning has been perceived as both time-consuming, it can be difficult to make, and also expensive. And it's all about finding those good scenarios, investing time writing the script. And it's not always a straightforward process, and you often end up with a regular text. But I strongly believe that with technology that we see today, and also with AI, we definitely see new possibilities. With the technology, you can now easily write a script, especially for the branch scenarios. It's easier to make visuals and also get your ideas into life. And also with the help of AI, it's now easier to, you have that buddy you can ask, get those good examples, get suggestions, also get what's not the correct responses, but also the wrong ones. So AI is definitely helping along the process. So with technology and AI, I definitely see a new era for scenario-based learning. And that is why we're so lucky to have you here today, Christy. And before I give you the word, I would just like to say that I have prepared 4 questions for you that I would like us to go through. And my first question to you, Christy, is that it would be great for us to hear what is scenario-based learning?
Yeah, I think it's hard in the field of learning and development. We aren't consistent in terminology, so I think this is a smart way to start. There's no consensus definition, but broadly, I take a broad definition that scenario-based learning is any training that uses some sort of realistic scenario and story to drive the training.
For sure.
People often think of branching scenarios, those interactive, expansive scenarios. I view those as one type under the broader umbrella of scenario-based learning. I think that we can have examples and linear scenarios and mini scenarios. All of those also are under the broader category of scenario-based learning. And I love branching scenarios. They're my favorite ones to build. But that's one option. Even things like linear scenarios or short videos can still prompt reflection and discussion as part of larger training, though. And so you do have multiple options even within this category of scenario-based learning.
Yeah, definitely. I love, we're going to come back to it later in regards to the mini scenarios as well. And agree, like it needs to be real life scenarios that people find relevant for sure. So the next question I have is what kind of key elements makes a scenario engaging and effective for learners, and how can they be integrated into training?
All right. So I think part of what makes a scenario engaging is that it's relevant. People do want to learn to do their jobs better. They want to be effective. And so if you give them scenarios that are relevant to their work environment, to their jobs, to the skills that they need to improve to be better at their jobs, they will be engaged in it. I think it also helps with scenarios to have enough challenge to make it interesting and to make people think. There's a lot of e-learning out there that is so fluffy and that the questions are so easy. How many times have we all taken e-learning where you could pass the quiz at the end without having read any of the training at the beginning? And with scenarios, we can create training that makes people think. We can give them practice making the kinds of decisions that they need to make on the job. It also helps for engagement when people can see the value and they can apply what they're learning right away. So you put them in the middle of a scenario and you give them something, you say, okay, well, what do you do next? And automatically they're already using the things that they've trained. So even if some of your training is, other methods, and I often use scenarios in combination with more direct training, you're still making it so they can apply what they're learning right away. There's also an aspect of emotional engagement. We focus a lot in training on the cognitive aspects, on how people think. But the reality is that human beings are also emotional. And so we think about the ways that to make people care and to have a story with emotional stakes where something's going wrong. And even in the, the minor stresses of our lives of, oh, my computer wasn't working and I couldn't get things to log in and I had, problems with this. Well, that still has emotional impact. We all have those things. We can identify with them and we care about it more because of that emotional impact. And that's so much easier to do with a story than with just about any other kind of training.
For sure. I I totally support that. And the importance of emotional engagement is it's spot on. And there's like a difference when you get a procedure or guideline. It's one thing to read about it, but how does it actually feel to be in that situation? How does it feel to talk to a child in hospital compared to an adult, for example? There's so much emotions and yeah, so totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for the next question I have prepared is about AI, and what role does AI play in developing scenario-based learning, and what considerations should people have regarding AI in learning design?
So I think AI is certainly helpful in speeding up the process. I use it a lot for brainstorming ideas. So you can brainstorm ideas for stories. You can also brainstorm the choices. One of the places that people often get stuck in, especially in branching scenarios, is coming up with good wrong answers. And AI is really good at getting you unstuck and helping you come up with those plausible distractors. Because that's always, even with all of my experience, I still get stuck sometimes on the like, wait, I've got a good answer, I've got an okay answer. Wait, what is the right bad answer here? Or what's something that's kind of in the middle of this? I'm not totally sold on, fully AI driven scenarios where we give them a little prompt and then it makes the whole scenario with no other guidance. I think we're not quite there for most training situations yet, because I think there's too much hallucination and error in that. We may get there, but I don't think right now that's the case for most things. I think most things we use some AI to help, or we can use AI in process, but with guardrails and with our subject matter experts reviewing things. I also think in terms of the, it does help in the process. The blank page is often your enemy in creating a scenario. And so anything that gets you from the blank page to having a very rough first draft, even if you're going to have to fix it a bunch, right? Because that's often the reality. But you know what? If I write my own first draft, I got to change a bunch after I edit it anyway. So like having the AI give me things, even if I know not quite right, I got to fix some stuff in here. Oh, the AI was too wordy here and I'm going to do something else. I think it does speed it up to get past that, like the blank page, and to have the brainstorming for other things.
For sure. I guess you use that a lot when you are in your projects, to have like a guiding or a helping hand just in the beginning, and then you can tweak it later.
Yeah, I use the AI kind of as a co-author working back and forth. I do a lot of prompting of, okay, here's the situation, and going back and forth in the tools to say, okay, here's my answer. Here's the right answer. Write up some dialogue for this that is, okay, if this is the right answer and then a wrong answer is going to be this. Because I know that the mistake is that people will ask a yes or no question instead of an open-ended question. So show me something where that's one of the wrong answers, and then come up with some other third option.
For sure.
And so so I use the AI to help fill in the gaps of things, and to keep the momentum going while I'm writing.
For sure. I also love the idea of getting help finding the wrong answers. You often know the right answers, but it's not so easy to figure out the wrong ones.
Yeah.
Do you have
Um,
any tips to streamlining the creation process for learning designers?
I think one of the areas where AI has made big advancements over the last 2 years is in voices. In the past, voiceover in branching scenarios has frankly been pretty prohibitive. It's just been too expensive to develop and maintain. And I have voiceover people who I love and who I have worked with. And when we have the budget, I have definitely done that. But the AI voices have really advanced so much that it does make it more affordable. And it does mean that we have the option to include voice in a lot more ways than we could have in the past. Like even 2 years ago, I think that the voices were too obviously computer generated, and they're getting to be so conversational now. I think that there's also potentially, the opportunity with AI to start evaluating open responses. And I know you'll touch on that a little bit more later. I think that that's also the direction that we'll be going, that will also have more options. And again, AI generated voices means you can have responses even from an open text field response, that there may be ways to do that. So
Agree, totally agree. And I've seen a huge improvement the last year in regards to the AI voices. We just integrated with 11 labs, and it's like it's a new world. It's so good, and that's definitely improved just recently.
yeah, and 11 Labs has so many choices for
Yeah,
voices as well. Like there's just a lot of options for it, and to have the tweaking with it that, they're not 100%, and you can tell in some, but it's so much cheaper now that we're at the point for scenarios of, well, if you want it, like, is it good enough for your training? And in many respects it is, other than I think some of the most emotional, had some where I had characters that were really angry, and I am still not quite, I think they still don't quite do all of the full emotional range. But in another 6 to 12 months, I think that my opinion will have changed on that as fast as that technology is improving.
for sure. Yeah, for sure. And it's massive to see. And you think about the production time, then it's very efficient. You can just write the script and you have the voiceover directly. So if you think about the production time compared to like recording voices, then it's definitely cool to see. Great. Moving on a bit, our next question is about the immersive elements. So how can immersive elements such as 3D characters, locations, simulations, how can this impact scenario-based learning, and what should creators keep in mind when using them?
So we know from research that people have an easier time applying what they learn in training to their work if they practice in a similar environment. And this is always part of the challenge in e-learning of, how do we simulate their real environment? How do we get as close as possible to the actual environment in what we're doing in e-learning? And realistic representations of the work context can make it easier for those skills to transfer. That the thing you did in training that you can actually do when you get on the job. And so showing the real environment, showing even pictures of that background help trigger that memory of, oh, right, in this place, I'm supposed to do this thing. Now, of course, no amount of immersive 3D multimedia is going to fix bad writing or bad scenarios, right? If the situation itself isn't realistic, the media isn't going to fix your bad writing. But if you have that good writing, then the multimedia can just level up the game so much to give you that more immersive feel, so that it will, you give people the right kinds of situations and decisions for it to matter. I think coming back to what we talked about earlier about emotional engagement, that you can certainly feel emotionally engaged just from text, right? We've all read novels that have had us really care about the characters, and you can get there with great writing. But there is also something to having some multimedia where emotionally seeing characters interact on the screen can have that emotional impact too. And it can reinforce what you're doing. Again, you have to give them good dialogue, but you can bring that dialogue to life with more immersive elements.
For sure. I think for learning designers out there, is like a gift to have the possibility to create, to have more immersive elements to add to your content. Totally agree. And I guess I also agree with what you said about nothing can hide bad writing. I guess how do you often start off when you are creating a scenario? I guess you start with a writing part?
Part of it actually does start with the questions that you ask at the beginning when you're talking to your SMEs and your stakeholders. Like all good instructional design, part of this is understanding the need in the first place, right? Understanding, well, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? And so I think in scenarios, if we have those questions of well, let's start by talking about what's the problem we're trying to solve? What are people doing right now that they're not supposed to be doing? What are people not doing that they're supposed to be doing? Why aren't they doing it? Understanding the problem.
Mm-hmm.
The more you understand the problem and the specific behaviors, the better your scenario will be. Because you're going to be able to write more realistic scenarios, more realistic dialogue, more realistic challenges. So when we do that, we're keeping it focused on what's the organizational need. What are we trying to do? All of this great stuff that we do doesn't matter if we don't get people to change their behavior. And I do think that we can do that with scenarios. But if we're solving for the wrong problem, we won't actually change the behavior that needs to be changed.
And that's a really good starting point. And this goes back to what you said about mini scenarios, that you can go straight into the core. What's the most important thing here to change?
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, and I love mini scenarios too. I mean, I for all that, a lot of what I speak at conferences about is branching scenarios, and it's often what I talk about on my blog, and they are my favorite. Over the years, what I've created more for clients is mini scenarios, because those short scenarios are often the things that, for organizations that haven't done a lot of scenarios, the mini scenarios are the way for them to get started without making them commit to, oh, well, we're going to do a full 10-minute branching scenario with a bunch of different options, and it's going to have all of these elements, and it's going to do all the other things. Mini scenarios are often the way that I can get people to get buy-in, so that then later we can maybe convince them to do something more complex.
For sure. And I will definitely also show that in my demo. I got so inspired by you, Christy. So I prepared a story about this that I'm going to show in this demo. That's actually the questions we had today, Christy. Thank you so much for giving us some insights. Yeah, and you will be here the rest of the webinar, answering questions throughout the time. So if you have any further questions to Christy, just write in the chat, or I will also share her email later on. So once again, Christy, thank you.
Yep, I will continue to be on the chat. So I did see that there was at least one question that came up, so I will go answer any more scenario questions in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you.
And maybe at the end, we'll see how we're doing on time. Thank you, Stine.
Okay. So great. Thank you, Christy. So now we have more insight into scenario-based learning. And I definitely think is amazing to create both mini scenarios and bigger scenarios. So we have some time now where I can show you a demo. And I have prepared some examples for you. So I'll just share my screen. There you go. So now I am logged into VR, and here you see our node map. So this is where you will be writing the scripts. So in VR, we create what we call stories, and this is one story. And here you see there's a linear story that ends up with 3 different options here at the end. And based on what I am clicking, so these yellow boxes, either box A, B, or C, based on what I am clicking, I am routed to the correct branch. And as I mentioned, I got so inspired by Christy. So here in the different nodes, I have written scripts. And in Christy's blog, she's writing about Dr. Pittman. That is a doctor, and she is working with a 47-year-old male patient, Blake. And Blake is diabetic, and his last A1C was 8.4. His blood pressure has been slightly elevated the last 3 visits, and Dr. Pittman is providing a brief intervention to recommend healthier diets. So that is the script. That's the scenario for this story. And what is also really cool, I can get help from AI to improve my writing. But if I click on Studio here, I am also able to give this character, she is introducing the scenario. So here I can make her come to life. So what I could do, I can give her different gestures, depending on what this is all about. And also I can give her different gestures. And here you have so many different ones to choose from. The library keeps just growing and growing. So depending on what your scenarios is about, I am pretty sure you will find a gesture that is perfect for you. And it's always possible to tweak her facial expressions. So here she has like a confident facial expression, but you can choose for a lot of different ones. And of course, you can also record your own voice directly into VR. I think for now, I'll just preview this to you so you see how this works.
What is the best question to ask according to motivational interview techniques?
So, Blake, I would like to ask you.
So here is Dr. Pittman. She is asking, we need to decide what she's going to ask Blake about. I have 3 options here, so 3 different branches. Let us just go for the middle one.
What concerns do you have about your diabetes?
Well, it is what it is. I guess I can't do so much about it.
It sounds like the patient might feel a bit resigned about their diabetes management. This could be a chance to explore their beliefs and help them.
And then I am routed all the way till the end here, where the moderator comes in and give me some feedback. So this is a classic mini scenario. We dive straight into the core, and I get the role as Dr. Pittman. I need to decide what should I ask Blake about. But as you could see here in the story, these responses are visible for the learner. I either need to click button A, B, or C. But now I want to change tab and show you something really cool. And the idea here is that wouldn't it be cool if the responses were hidden? So I, as a learner taking this story, I don't know if what the response node I should click on, but based on free speech, AI will route me to the correct response nodes. So here we're talking about free speech and talking to the character. And we have also set something called AI rephrase, meaning that based on what I am saying, the character will respond back to me, and it will flow very natural. So for this example here, this is from a retail store. So a customer is coming up to me, and I am the one working in the store. And the customer, he would like to buy some new skis. We're in Norway, so I guess that's a classic example. So the customer is coming to me, and I'll show you now how this play out.
Hi, I'm looking for new alpine skis. Do you have any recommendations?
And now I need to click on this mic to be able to talk to him. But we have also enabled something really cool called hints here. So in the top, I get some sort of hint. What should I ask the customer to sell him the correct skis? Sure, but have you done a lot of skiing before?
Well, I'm not a pro, that's for sure. I'd say I'm more of an intermediate skier.
And then he replies back. So based on my speech, the character replies back to me. And one thing I also really like to show you is something we call a no match. So this is the node here at the end. So if I say something wrong or I don't ask about his skill level, I can say something completely else. The AI will route me back again, so I am able to try one more time. So let's just give this one more
Hi,
go.
I'm looking for new alpine skis. Do you have any recommendations?
Sure, but I need to know, is it raining outside?
I'm not sure about the weather, but I'm really excited to check out some new skis. What should I look for?
And then AI, based on what I'm saying, he's routing me back again, and I'm able to answer one more time, giving me one more go. So here I can, of course, set this as I would like to. I can set the number of plays. So how many times will I be able to say something that is not correct in regards to the node map? So here you're really talking about free speech, talking to the characters. And I think for the previous example I showed you with the nodes visible, the response node visible, I think that's more for the correct answers and so on. But here you really have to think like, okay, what should I answer next? I would love to show you a bit more so you see how this is playing out.
Hi, I'm looking for new alpine skis. Do you have any recommendations?
Sure, but have you done a lot of skiing before?
Well, I'm not a pro, that's for sure. I'd say I'm more of an intermediate skier. Just looking to upgrade my gear a bit.
Sure. What kind of skis are you looking for? Are you looking for randonnée skis, or what about the snowboard?
No big jumps on me, that's for sure. I usually stick to regular slalom, just cruising down the slopes. Nothing fancy, you know?
Okay, nice. Then I should think we could have a look at these 3 different options.
They all look nice.
And then I am routed to a conversation. So here you see at the end, I have the 3 different options, but they're all leading into the same path where the characters are talking together, and I don't need to do anything. So this is how is all set up. You decide how you want these stories, these scenarios to be played out. You can have a linear story, or you can have a branch scenario with different branches, and they continue on their own path, or they can loop back together. This is all up to you. So we have a lot of new feature coming up really soon, and the open response I just showed you, we're so looking forward to launching this anytime soon. So this is definitely great news. And I would also like to add that when you want to publish your story, you can either click on this record button on the top right corner here, and then you can download your story as an MP4 file to your computer, or you can click on publish, and here you will get a URL that you either can distribute, or you can integrate it with your LMS, for example, and get it directly in there. So you have many different options to distributing a story. Before I continue, I would also like to tell you that I recommend all of you to give We Are a test. So there will be a pop-up here where you can test out We Are for 14 days. So sign up and see how you like it, and play around and get a good feeling of how you can create scenario-based learning yourself in no time. Okay, good. I think that's it for the demo. I'll just share the other screen. There we go. So, I believe we have seen or we have heard some great insight from Christy about scenario-based learning. I love the way she talked about having it relevant and realistic, since that's so necessary for the learner to connect to the content. I believe also the key takeaway number 2 is the emotional engagement to make training more efficient. And number 3, leveraging AI to brainstorm ideas and generate answers. So having AI as a buddy definitely helps. And of course, number 4, incorporate immersive elements to enhance skill transfer and retention. So all of this makes it much easier now, if you have this in mind, to create the scenario-based training. Nice. Okay. I also highly recommend all of you to check out Christy's blog. There's a lot of different articles here where she's writing about scenario-based learning, and also connect to her on LinkedIn. Here you also see her email. I think we have a few more extra minutes, so why don't we check to see if there is any questions here? Let me see. I see there's a lot of different questions here. Great. And I see also Glenn has answered all of them pretty much. Good. I think the chat for now is pretty much answered, and we will, of course, follow up later as well if there is anything. And so to continue on, Christy will be at DevLearn, and she will have a session about mini scenarios in Las Vegas in November. So check that out if you are at DevLearn. And we will also be at DevLearn. So come visit our stand if you would like to see we are live and get to meet us. We will be at the stand 271. So please come by and visit us, and we will definitely give you a demo of VR. And also 5th of November, I am holding and having a webinar on how you can get started using VR. So in a couple of weeks, I will have a webinar going through basic how you create scenario-based learning yourself in VR. I will go a bit more into detail compared to this session. So I will log into VR, give you a good overview of how the tool works, and show you how you can create your script from scratch, or you can use our AI bot Aiko if you would like. So here's a pop-up from Maria, my colleague. So if you would like to join, click on this link and join me 5th of November. Okay, so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Here you have my email, so don't hesitate to reach out. And that was it from us. I wishing you all a great the rest of your day. And if there's anything, reach out. Okay, bye guys.